Welcome back to Never Did It. I'm Jake Ziegler, and I'm here with Brad Garoon. Never Did It, we look back at the last 100 plus years of movie history in an effort to fill in some of our own movie blind spots. Right now, we're in the midst of Season 2, Animation Boogaloo, and we're covering a lot of animated movies. But today we're going to do a little bit of a special episode and take a look at some animated features that may have gotten some Oscar love had the Oscar category existed before 2001. The first year of the Best Animated Feature Oscar was, like I mentioned, 2001. It went to Shrek. And today we're going to look back at 10 years prior to that and see what would have been nominated in the event that category existed. Now, animated movies have gotten Academy Award nominations over the years before that category existed, but it was mostly limited to the score and song categories, and occasionally maybe one would break out into and get a nomination in like the sound categories or something like that. But for the most part, it was very limited to the score and song categories, and we'll try to shine a little light on some of these movies that may have gotten a little more spotlight had the category existed. So we're going to bounce through this year by year, starting with 1991.
Cool. Yeah, and we just thought this would be like a nice complement to our 1990s animation episode from last week, because this is the Renaissance. This decade was the Renaissance of Disney animation, which, as you've heard from our series so far, has been crapping the bed the last couple of decades. Yeah, it's kind of surprising to me that until we started looking into this exercise, it was kind of surprising to me that the category didn't start earlier, but we should mention like the reason it started, we'll talk about it right away.
Yeah, 1991, yep.
Right, is that Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture. And so people started, it took a decade, as things tend to take a long time with the Oscars, but people started thinking, maybe we need to be a little bit more serious about what's going on in this corner of the movie landscape.
And then especially when we get to the mid-90s, and we'll talk about Toy Story a little bit too. Toy Story was another kind of watershed moment in the animation game. I think that certainly helped the animated genre, get a little more... the animated medium, that kind of helped it gain a little bit more respect. Toy Story changed the game in a lot of ways too. So that's another big event in the mid-90s coming up here.
I actually kind of wish we had Mike Tanzillo on, because I'd love to know how, and maybe I'll just text him, but I'd love to know how did computer animation, I'm just rephrasing it because I'm typing it as I say it. Yeah. Did computer animation change how quickly / how many movies could be produced in a given year? Because we see now, at the very least, what we do know is that it changed the accessibility of animation and made it much more accessible, because we just see it's exponential, the amount of animated films are produced per year now than were produced per year then. Like, even if you just you go beyond what's eligible for a given year. For 1992, you have 2 movies listed, or for 1991, you have 2 movies listed that were eligible for an Oscar. We'll talk about a few more, as you said, but not a lot more. Yeah. Whereas, like, for right now, we're in 2025, and your list of animated movies that have come out this year is what is it at now?
I want to say it's 30 something,
and that's just through the end of October. There's 2 more months where people are going to jam a lot of movies in because it's the end of the year.
The season, seasonality. A lot of families going to see movies over the holidays. So yeah, a lot of animated films do tend to get released in those last 2 months. I know we've got Zootopia 2 coming out, and a bunch of some smaller things as well. But yeah, animated films of 2025. So yeah, so far we've got 47 animated films on that list, and that's, like I said, just through the month of October. So yeah, it's been an explosion.
Cool. And then last thing before we get into the years, talk a little bit about thresholds for categories. So we've seen, since the category began in 2001, at first there were 3 movies nominated per year and then 5. What are the thresholds needed to hit those amount of nominees?
The threshold for that, there has to be 15, or it has to be 16. It has to be one more than 15 animated films submitted in order to trigger the 5 nominations. If it's any less than that, it's going to be 3. And it's interesting, they hit 5 in their second year. When they hit 2002, there were 5 nominees there that Spirited Away won, but then it went back down to 3 for a couple of years, and it actually flipped a couple of years where it would be, I remember like 2009 was 5, and then 2010 was 3, and it kind of flipped back and forth. And that's been at 5 pretty steadily for at least probably the last 10 or 11 years.
Yeah, and that's never going to change now with dozens of
I'd be very shocked, if there were less than 15 animated films that submitted. I mean, usually, even, like now, I said I've got 47 animated films that have come out this year, and usually the actual eligible list for animated films right now is resting around, usually between 28 and 33, give or take, that are actually eligible, who submit, process for the award and everything. So yeah, it's a lot to choose from.
And with AI processing and AI generative things happening, depending on how the Academy treats that stuff, there's going to be more. It's not going to be less. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's talk about 1991. It's a weirdly bare year. So actually a little bit more history. I have a list on Letterboxd that goes back even farther, because before 1991, there's a few years where there are more eligible movies available. But 1991 was kind of a weirdly dead year, but also weird because it's the year Beauty and the Beast came out and got nominated for Best Picture. And then the other movie that came out that year that was eligible was the sequel to An American Tail, Fievel Goes West, which was directed by Phil Nibelink and Simon Wells and was part of Don Bluth's, the sequel to Don Bluth's An American Tail. But we can't make a category out of that.
Those are the only two. There was there have been a couple of categories in the Oscars where there were two nominees. I know Song had two nominees one year. Makeup did it 1 year, so it's pretty rare. But those are the only two that were actually eligible. Now, there were a couple other movies that did come out in 1991, didn't quite make it. One of them we know didn't make it. We covered this one on the podcast in season 1. We covered a film called Only Yesterday, which came out in Japan in 1991 and didn't make it to the States until much, much later. I think the official Blu-ray release was not until early 2016. So we didn't get that movie in America until much, much later. But if we had, I certainly think that would have been a very worthy nominee to join An American Tail and Beauty and the Beast. Only Yesterday, probably maybe a better movie than Beauty and the Beast. Those are pretty close for me, though. I really love Beauty and the Beast. I know I'm higher on that one than you are. Had that happened in that year, I mean, it would have been silly for Beauty and the Beast to be nominated for Best Picture, but then not be the best animated feature. That wouldn't make sense.
For sure. I mean, Only Yesterday would have gotten my vote. Only Yesterday would not have been nominated for Best Picture because foreign films also didn't really get nominated for Best Picture all that much back then. And there was only 5 movies in the category, which makes it even more impressive that Beauty and the Beast was nominated for Best Picture. There's another movie that came out in 1991 that was not eligible for reasons we don't actually understand, and that's Rover Dangerfield. Which was directed by James L. George and Bob Seeley, but is the cartoon version of a Rodney Dangerfield movie, starring Rodney Dangerfield as a basset hound, beagle. I don't know. He's basically his face is Rodney Dangerfield's face.
Yeah.
And his girlfriend Daisy, voiced by Susan Boyd, looks like Lassie. And I definitely saw this. I have it marked as watched on Letterboxd, but even if it got nominated, it wouldn't have gotten nominated because there weren't enough movies to reach the threshold, but it's not great. So but worth pointing out because people have seen this film.
And I don't remember seeing, I recognized it, when I saw it, when I was looking into this, obviously this project, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this movie, but I don't recall ever having seen it. So if I did, it was a long, long time ago when I was young.
Have you seen An American Tail, Fievel Goes West?
Also, maybe when I was young. I don't have any memory of it. I'm pretty sure I saw both. Did you know that there's 2 others after Fievel Goes West?
I don't know that, and I don't believe it.
Yeah, I just found that out too. They looked like they were straight to video fare, but yeah, there was after Fievel Goes West, there was An American Tail, The Treasure of Manhattan Island in 1998, and An American Tail, The Mystery of the Night Monster in 1999. Sounds like Scooby-Doo movies to me, honestly.
That sounds terrible. I actually kind of liked An American Tail, Fievel Goes West. I remember seeing that in the theater when I was 6. It's most notable because Jimmy Stewart does the voice of one of the main characters, Wiley Burp, which is obviously a spoof of Wyatt Earp. And Dom DeLuise is fun because he comes back as Tiger from the first movie. Dom DeLuise is always great in animation. He was in The Secret of NIMH. He and Don Bluth clearly liked working together. So as much as I hate to say it, I agree with you. Beauty and the Beast would have won this category.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a walk for Disney that year. And Disney is going to dominate a lot of this discussion here just because of the nature of what was released that decade. But I mean, Beauty and the Beast certainly, would have been as the first Best Picture winner, kind of broke that seal. And even today, it's only been done 2 more times. We won't talk about these years because the animated film category existed too. But since Beauty and the Beast, only Up in 2009 and Toy Story 3 in 2010 have joined it in the Best Picture nominee category. So still a pretty select group.
I think there was a little bit of buzz about Wild Robot getting in last year. Obviously that didn't happen, but it's less impressive now because there are more slots in the category.
Right, yeah, with 10 instead of 5, you're able to get in things that would certainly not get in if there were only 5.
I don't think K-pop Demon Hunters is getting in this year.
I don't see it, no, but it's a lot of fun.
So let's move on to 1992. We have 5 now. You set up a 5 slot category here, so there were more than 15 movies that were eligible.
No, these are the only movies that I found that were actually eligible.
Oh, I take it all back. That makes sense. Okay, so we have to figure out which would be nominated and which would win? Which
of these 3 out of the 5? I highlighted the ones that I thought were going to be nominated just for my reference. I don't know if you can see that because of the way
I see it, and I think you are wrong. Only on one, but tell me what you think your nominees are. I think we'll agree on the winner. Tell me what you think your nominees are, and I'll tell you which one I would switch.
I already know the answer to that, but let's do the exercise because there were 5. I found 5 animated films from that year that were Oscar eligible and came out in 1992. Those movies are Aladdin, Bebe's Kids, Ferngully, The Last Rainforest, Rockadoodle, and The Tune. The Tune is a Bill Plimpton film. Rockadoodle is Don Bluth. Pretty sure most of us are familiar with Ferngully. Bebe's Kids. Do you remember Bebe's Kids?
Not only do I remember Bebe's Kids, of all the movies on this list, I have seen Bebe's Kids the most, except for Aladdin. Like, Bebe's Kids played a lot in my house growing up because we don't die, we multiply. I remember Bebe's Kids very well. It's not good, but it has a lot of energy.
Actually, I haven't seen it. I don't remember ever seeing it as a kid either.
It's like about a bunch of delinquent kids from the hood, and they cause trouble at an amusement park. It's okay. When you're 7, this movie is so much fun. It's pretty dumb, but it's very cool that it got made because there is absolutely no representation for African-American kids in the animation industry whatsoever. So it is pretty cool that Bebe's Kids exist. And for that reason alone, I want to say that it would be the nominee, but it's not what I would say would be the nominee. Which 3? First off, give us your 3 nominees.
My 3, I mean, Aladdin, obviously, I think is a given. I think Ferngully was really popular that year, and as far as I remember, pretty good. I watched it when my kid was little. And then the third spot, and I can see this one going in either way, because you've got Rockadoodle with Don Bluth, or The Tune with Bill Plimpton. Bill Plimpton's been nominated a number of times for his short films, and I know he's a bit, he's pretty respected in the genre. So I picked The Tune as my third nominee, but I'm not so solid on that. Like, I could easily see it being the film that you're going to advocate for right now.
Right. So the reason Jake knows what I'm going to advocate for, and you can't see this, but in our recording software, we each get to give ourselves a nickname. And today Jake's is Oscar Enthusiast, and mine is Justice for Rockadoodle. I don't even like this movie that much. I saw it in the theater. I think I've told this story on the podcast before. I saw it in the theater, and when Rockadoodle, who is an rooster Elvis impersonator, when he first screams Rockadoodle, when I saw it in the theater, the screen caught on fire, or the film caught on fire.
That's right, yeah.
And we were all like, what? And I remember my buddy, I saw it with my friend Ryan Shields, and I remember him laughing so hard because a little kid, like a baby in the back screamed, Rockadoodle! And he thought that was the funniest thing that had ever happened. So they gave us a refund. We saw it later. Even though this movie's been memory hold, I still think it would have won because, as much as, like you said, Don Bluth had been nominated for short films, and we should mention the short animation category has been around since the beginning of the Oscars. So there is a history of honoring animation at the Oscars. It wasn't so, we can't say it was a matter of animation has just been disrespected. It is in large part a case of there are just not enough feature animated films up until this point. I just think people saw this category as for the kids, and The Tune is not that.
Right.
That is an adult movie.
Yes. Judging on when they actually did debut the category, and the nominees were Shrek, Monsters, Inc., both of which make complete sense. Very, good movies and huge movies that year. But then the third nominee, when you had a choice of like Waking Life or Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, it went to Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. And no disrespect. I mean, Jimmy Neutron is fun and he's, whatever. I've got no beef, but that kind of tells you where the category was at to start with.
Right. So that's why I think Rockadoodle. But undoubtedly the winner would have been Aladdin, which I own The Tune on Blu-ray and have not watched it. I still need to watch it.
I've never seen it, but I'd be curious.
Yeah, but so of the 4 movies on here, Aladdin is the best of them.
Yeah, Aladdin would certainly, win that one in a walk.
All right, wait, are there any other movies in 1992 that we need to talk about?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, let's look. In 1992, there were a couple other animated films that came out that year worth mentioning. Porco Rosso came out that year. That was the one of the Miyazaki movie. Didn't come out in the States until much later, but certainly that would have been a strong contender had it came out. Letterboxd lists a movie called Cool World, which I don't think is animated enough to reach that threshold, because that's another threshold we didn't talk about, is that the movie has to be at least 75% animated in order to qualify for the animated film Oscars. So that's why you can have some mixed media films getting in there. In fact, it's only happened 3 times where a movie was disqualified, was originally submitted and then disqualified for not being animated enough. And that was Arthur and the Invisibles in 2006.
That's Luc Besson, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yogi Bear in 2010 and The Smurfs in 2011. Now, these are all bad movies anyway, so I don't think they would have been nominated even if they had reached the threshold. But Cool World, I think, would fall into that as well, where it wouldn't quite meet the threshold, but it is quite a bit of animation in it. There was also, I was surprised to see that Tom and Jerry, the movie, wasn't at least eligible for Oscars that year. I was pretty sure that was a theatrical release. Tom and Jerry, the movie, was in 1992, and those are kind of the big releases. The rest that I can see here are all kind of international films or a lot of straight-to-video stuff in here.
Yeah, Comet and Moominland it's kind of buzzy amongst animation fans, but I think that's like a pretty recent thing that's happened. I didn't know that Arthur and the Invisibles was mixed animation and real life. I'm looking at the trailer now, and it looks like it's much more animation it kind of looks like, we'll talk about this movie in a minute, but like The Page Master, which starts
Mm-hmm.
and ends in real life and then is animated for most of it. I think that's what Arthur and the Invisibles is.
Saw it like when it came out. I don't have a strong memory of it at this point, but I saw it 20 years ago.
Right. I'm just kind of surprised it was disqualified. Let's move on to 1993.
I was only able to find 4 films that were eligible for this year, and I think the nomination slate would have been pretty clear. We've got Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, which unbelievably I have not seen. I like Batman. I love animation. I don't know why I haven't seen this movie. I don't have a good excuse. We've also got Henry Selick's The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was a big hit that year. We've got a film by Charles Grosvenor called Once Upon a Forest that I'm not so familiar with, and then a movie that I do remember called We're Back, A Dinosaur Story. Those were the 4 movies. Of those 4, The Nightmare Before Christmas actually did get an Oscar nomination that year. It was nominated in the visual effects category, which is also rare for animated, even stop motion animation film to get into this category. So it did get nominated there, but I lost obviously to Jurassic Park because nothing was going to beat Jurassic Park for visual effects that year, or probably any year. I think the 3 nominees would be Batman, Nightmare Before Christmas, and then We're Back, A Dinosaur Story, just based on the fact that was more known. I'm not familiar with Once Upon a Story, but I do remember We're Back. I don't remember ever seeing it, but I definitely remember that movie, so I think that was just a little bigger.
Yeah, I've never seen We're Back or Once Upon a Forest, but I remember We're Back coming out. I don't remember Once Upon a Forest coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Nightmare Before Christmas and Batman Mask of the Phantasm were both really big movies. I cannot overstate how popular The Nightmare Before Christmas was. It continues to be massively popular. Danny Elfman and Billie Eilish recently did a concert with Nightmare Before Christmas music. I think they do the Nightmare Before Christmas concert every year. Billie Eilish is singing the Sally songs. Like, that's wild.
She wasn't even alive when that movie came out.
Right. And Danny Elfman is the singing voice of Jack Skellington in that movie and composed the music, as he did for most Tim Burton movies. We need to make clear, you said this, and I just want to repeat it. I see a lot of people, even now, saying this is a Tim Burton movie. It is not. He produced it. He did not direct it. He has some creative hand in it, but you can watch the making of this movie, and it's all about how stressed out Henry Selick was about pleasing the producer, Tim Burton, not about Burton being in there and really getting his hands dirty. And Henry Selick is the modern godfather of stop motion animation. We'll talk about more of his movies as we go on in this list. I've seen Batman Mask of the Phantasm. I'm not as high on it as most people, but it is a solid, as far as animated Batman movies goes, it's quite good. I agree that We're Back beats out Once Upon a Forest for a nomination, and I think Nightmare Before Christmas wins in a landslide.
Certainly, yeah. I think that would definitely be the winner there. Yep.
The only other 2 movies that I think we must mention, well, there's 3. The Studio Ghibli movie directed by Tomomo Mochizuki, Ocean Waves, came out that year. So just by virtue of being a Ghibli movie, would probably has more fans than would have otherwise. And it was theatrically released in 2024 in the United States. There's a Ninja Scroll movie in 1993 directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, who has directed one movie that I love called Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, which I'll talk about later because it came out in 2000, but didn't come out here until 1996. We should probably put it on as eligible for 96, but they didn't submit. Is that how we're doing it?
Yeah, I'm just choosing it if it was actually on the list. It was not submitted.
And the other movie from Japan, that one's also from Japan. And the other one from Japan by Mamoru Oshii, who's very famous for being the director of Ghost in the Shell and Angel Egg and several other movies that I don't like. But his vibe is not really my vibe. Like Jinro, I watched recently, not really into. But he directed a movie called Patlabor and Patlabor 2. Patlabor 2 came out in 1993 and has now become, just recently, really broken out as like a movie that animation fans outside of Japan need to see. I have not seen it yet. And then there's a famous movie because it's been remade and recut called The Thief and the Cobbler.
I was just looking at that one too, yeah, by Richard Williams.
Yeah, the Richard Williams movie. He's very famous for doing an adaptation of A Christmas Carol. And then this movie came out in 1995. It released in the United States, but it was an Australian release originally in 93. So it doesn't count. And I've also never seen it, and I'm dying to see it. It's supposed to be very, very good.
Oh, yeah, I put that one on my list too. And there's one other movie. It's called Ramayana, The Legend of Prince Rama. This movie has a 1993 release date, but somehow there was I think they redid it. I think maybe redubbed it. I think Bryan Cranston, and it ended up being on the 2001, the official Oscar list for animated features. But that obviously didn't get nominated that year. But I thought that was interesting. Yeah, it was one it took me forever to track that one down because I think it had a different title in 2001 too. So it took me a long time to figure out that this was actually the movie that they were talking about.
It's confusing. It's the same with The Thief and the Cobbler, which was unfinished for a long time, much like we talked about The King and the Mockingbird, which went unfinished, which was released unfinished in the 50s and then, or maybe 60s, and then finally came out in its final form in the 80s. The Thief and the Cobbler came out in 1993 with the title The Princess and the Cobbler. And then in 1995, when it finally came out here, Disney re-released it, re-edited as Arabian Night. The 1993 version that came out outside the United States is the real version, and then we got a garbagey recut Disney version in 95 in the US, and what people are excited about is the real original version, which I guess there are ways that you can see.
Wait, so you said it was called Arabian Night when it came out in the States in 95?
Yeah.
It was eligible for the Oscar. I just looked it up. It was actually on the Oscar list for 1995.
So we'll get back to it.
We'll come back to it in a couple of years.
All right, so let's talk about 1994.
Yes, let's go to 1994. We had another big, obvious winner here, and again, another selection of only 4 films I found that were actually not eligible, but there were a few others we can talk about as well. The 4 actually eligible films that I found: The Lion King, of course, Disney's big one Brad referenced just a few minutes ago, The Page Master. Richard Rich had The Swan Princess, and then Don Bluth and Gary Goldman had Thumbelina. I think, again, of the 4, I think the 3 nominee slate is pretty easy. I think we would be looking at Lion King, Swan Princess, and Thumbelina, and I mean, nothing's topping Lion King that year. Lion King actually did decent at the Oscars that year too. There was a lot of talk about that getting a Best Picture nomination following Beauty and the Beast. It did not, but it did win the Oscar for original score for Hans Zimmer, and then 3 of the songs were nominated. The Elton John, Tim Rice songs, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, which was the winner, then Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata were also. So it went 2 for 4 at the Oscars that year, and I think that would have been the easy winner.
So I agree that The Lion King would be the easy winner. I'm not convicted enough in what I'm about to say to argue it, but I'm not sure the Page Master would lose out on a nomination to Swan Princess. Swan Princess is garbage. It's like it's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen the Page Master, so I can't say if it's any good.
I've not seen either, so I was going with my gut.
But I do think Thumbelina, and I talked about this on our 90s episode that came out last week, is so weird and so good. I love it. I don't think in 94 that it had the reputation. Oh, it has no reputation now. I'm kind of I'm kind of saying it should have like one of these bonkers reputations. Mm-hmm. I think it was just sort of a throwaway Don Bluth, just trying to make things work with his new studio. I really love it, but yeah, Lion King's like a goated movie, so come on.
For good reason, yeah.
Yeah. And then 2 movies, actually, we should talk about 3 movies that would not have been eligible. All of these came out outside the United States, but there's Pompoko, the Isao Takahata movie that he made under the Studio Ghibli banner, which is another, like, what was he thinking when he made this movie? It's about raccoons who have to fight using their testicle. They're giant, enlarged, swollen testicles. It's a crazy movie. You're making a face like you don't believe me. This is you need to watch the movie.
I'm just surprised.
Okay. There's the Jan Svankmajer movie Faust, his adaptation of Faust, stop motion animated. I've never seen it. Incredibly highly regarded. I'm really excited to watch it. He also made, we've talked about this movie in the past, a stop motion animated version of Alice in Wonderland, just called Alice, in 1988, which was very disturbing and weird, but good. And then, of course, the other movie we talked about on our 90s animation episode, Felidae, the German, kind of like very heavily influenced by Don Bluth style animation movie by Michael Schack, a cat noir. It's very good.
And we had a couple of, I think it looked like straight-to-video sequels that year. I don't know if everybody remembers The Return of Jafar.
Yeah.
Great Aladdin sequel, and Land Before Time 2 were that year as well.
Right. And then we're not mentioning these, but there are like a host of Dragon Ball movies that come out, a host of video game adaptations. Like Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, came out this year, made by Gisaburo Sugi, who's more famous for having made Night on the Galactic Railroad. And when I say more famous, I mean amongst the 30 people who are brain dead like us, who watch every animated movie. But the Street Fighter adaptation that we all know is the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
There was a Scooby-Doo that year, too, was Scooby-Doo in Arabian Nights, going on with the Arabian Night theme. And then Bluth and Goldman actually had a second movie in 94 because they had A Troll in Central Park with Dom DeLuise.
Which I believe is their second biggest bomb, potentially their biggest bomb. This movie really did not work out for them.
Yeah, I remember it, being a bomb.
Okay, cool. 1995.
Yeah, right. Let's moving on. Well, as we just learned, in 1995, I would add Arabian Night to the list. That actually did qualify, but we're starting to get up. Well, it's going to go down after this, but for this year, we actually had 6 total nominees. Well, actually 7 now that we had Arabian Night. So the list of eligible films this year would have been Arabian Night, Balto, Goofy Movie, Gumby the movie, which I was shocked made it onto this list, but I love Gumby. Don Bluth and Gary Goldman again with The Pebble and the Penguin. Disney's Pocahontas. As we mentioned earlier, Pixar's Toy Story came out this year and absolutely 100% changed the game. As far as actual Oscar nominations that year, both the animated films did pretty well. Pocahontas went 2 for 2. It won the Best Original Musical or Comedy Score. That went to Alan Menken, who had also won it for Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast, so he's kind of good at this thing. And then Colors of the Wind, the song from Pocahontas, won as well. And then Toy Story did real well. Didn't win as much, but it was also nominated in those musical categories. Randy Newman was nominated for the score and for writing the song You've Got a Friend in Me, which is, you still hear that. And Toy Story was also nominated for Best Original Screenplay, which I would have to check to see if it was the first time an animated movie made it into a screenplay category, because that would be exceptionally rare. Even today, that doesn't happen very often. I know Shrek got into adapted screenplay as well, the first one, but I still think that's pretty rare. And then Toy Story was also given, John Lasseter was given a Special Achievement Award just for creating Toy Story with the computer animation that he'd done with that. So they actually gave a Special Achievement Award to Toy Story that year as well.
So I don't agree with one of your nominees, but I do agree with the other two, the two obvious ones, Pocahontas and Toy Story. Even though I think Pocahontas is the worst movie of the decade from Disney. It just feels like...
of the decade, yeah, I'd say for sure.
Like Mel Gibson just didn't seem like he was trying at all. He sounds super bored. The animation is unbeatable, and the songs are pretty good, but the story is a big load of nothing, and it doesn't really have an ending. So
I don't think it's a bad movie or anything, but yeah, it's certainly, if you're comparing it to the rest of Disney's output of the 90s, yeah, it's a distant last place.
I would say it's not even the best Disney movie that came out that year, and I will go ahead and say that I think a Goofy movie would... You put Balto as your third nominee.
I just didn't want the whole category to be all three Disney movies.
Yeah, but I do think the category would be 3 Disney movies. A Goofy movie is really enduring. Also, now that's not fair to put on the people of 1995, but a Goofy movie continues to be very popular. People still dress up like Powerline on Halloween. People still know like the Goofy cast, how he cast his fishing rod, and that's how he danced with Powerline. The songs in it are quite good. It's actually a good movie, a great father-son movie, and it took this character that had been pretty one note for 50 years and made him much more nuanced. I think it's very, very good and deserves its reputation, and I think it would have been the third nominee.
I think either way, whichever one got in at 3, I think Toy Story is your obvious winner here.
So Toy Story changed the industry. So yeah, Toy Story is the obvious winner. What have we got that we're missing here?
We've got Whisper in the Heart. Was that year? That's Yoshifumi Kondo. Isn't that one? That's pretty well regarded, but is that one that you don't care for?
I think that it is fine. It's not one of my favorites. That's another Studio Ghibli movie not directed by Takahata or Miyazaki. I think it's okay. So the only movie that I think is really worth mentioning, there's two, is The Ghost in the Shell, also by Mamoru Oshii, who's a god to a lot of anime fans. I think this movie is really boring. And then Memories, which is a what do you call it? A compilation movie. It's 3 short films, although one of the short films is really feature length, by Tensai Okamura, Koji Morimoto, and Katsuhiro Otomo. But I do think people should watch this just to watch The Magnetic Rose, which is the first of the 3 shorts. And The Magnetic Rose is an incredible hour of animation. Am I missing anything?
No, I don't think so. Well, I mean, Land Before Time 3. Yeah, for chart.
We don't need to chart The Land Before Time. If we're not charting the Dragon Ball movies, we don't need to chart the Land. There's like 80 of these Land Before Time.
I think there's still less Land Before Time movies than there are Dragon Ball Z.
Basically, after Don Bluth screwed up his theatrical career, he kept making money because The Land Before Time never stopped making movies.
Good work if you can get it.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to 1996. Really scaled back on 96, eh?
Yeah, I was surprised. After I got excited when I was doing this list, I did it in chronological order of like 95. I'm like, all right, we're bumping up a little bit. We got 6 or 7 movies here. And then in 96, I could only find 3. And looking at the list over again, I was like, yeah, I don't think we really would have missed anything. The 3 films that I found that were technically eligible for Oscars, we've got one of my favorite movies, Mike Judge's Beavis and Butthead 2 America. Then we've got The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Disney's horniest animated movie, and then Henry Selick coming back again with James and the Giant Peach. So I know there's an argument that Beavis and Butthead would never get nominated for an Oscar, but for the purposes of this exercise, there are 3 movies this year we're picking on. Those are the 3 nominees.
Not long after this, South Park gets nominated for Best Song. So I do think that Beavis and Butthead, if this category existed, Beavis and Butthead would have been nominated.
Oh, certainly. I think so too.
It is
The
a good
actual
movie.
Oscars, both Hunchback and James and the Giant Peach were nominated for the Best Original Musical or Comedy Score. Alan Menken and Randy Newman, respectively. Those names pop up a lot, but they both lost that award to Emma, the Gwyneth Paltrow version of Emma, with the score done by Rachel Portman. But those are the only nominations they actually got that year. And I think the winner of these three probably would have been Hunchback. Although I could see a strong case for James and the Giant Peach as well. I mean, Hunchback, of course, has the Disney advantage, but also it's not the most popular Disney movie, even though I think it's quite good and quite underrated. But I could really see, it's between Hunchback and James. I'm not quite sure what would have prevailed there.
I think it would have been a tough call. Mm-hmm. Yeah, James and the Giant Peach is very, very, very good. Has the stop motion advantage, I think, just because we don't actually see, there is no stop motion advantage at the Oscar, but from... And everyone votes on the winner, and the nominees are by default. So there's not much going for that. But it's just such a great technical achievement, what happened with James and the Giant Peach. And I remember when that movie came out, watching the making of it and being blown away. You're blown away just watching the movie itself. I'm going to go with James and the Giant Peach as the winner. I agree with everything you said about Hunchback. I think it's really underrated and very good. But no, I like James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm landing too. But it'd be a tough call.
You mentioned there were really not a lot of animated movies that came out this year. In fact, with I think one exception of a Czech film, everything else is either TV movie or direct to VHS at the time, like Aladdin 3, Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, All Dogs Go to Heaven 2. Did that come out in theaters? I don't think so. Oh, it did. All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 came out in theaters.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Crazy. I would have thought that was straight to video as well.
Yeah. The only other...
Charlie Sheen.
Huh. There's X the movie, an anime movie that I know nothing about. Of course, there's another Land Before Time movie. Of course, there's a million.
All Dogs Go to Heaven was eligible. I missed that one.
Whoopsie. And then there's another Jan Svankmajer movie called Conspirators of Pleasure that looks pretty interesting and that I am learning about right this second. So that just went on my watch list. It might not actually be animated. It might only be partially animated.
Which is the case with another big movie from that year, Space Jam. Had a lot of animation in it, but not nearly enough to qualify for this. There's a lot of live action in that.
Totally. Okay, let's go on to 1997.
1997. Again, I was only able to find 3 films that actually qualified for this year, so the nomination slate would be pretty easy to decide. The 3 that came out in 1997, we've got a movie that we covered in great detail on our 90s animated episode. That's Anastasia. Another film that was eligible that year is Mark Dindal's Cats Don't Dance, which I've never seen, but I remember very well from my days at Family Video, walking through the free kids section. That one was always rented out. And then Hercules, Disney's film. Now they did, Hercules and Anastasia did get nominated for a couple of Oscars, again, the score and song categories. None of them won, but Anastasia was nominated for the Best Original Musical or Comedy Score, and then the song Journey to the Past was nominated, and the song from Hercules, Go the Distance, was nominated, and they both lost score and song award, both to Titanic, was the big winner that year, and certainly no shame in losing to Titanic and Celine Dion's mega hit, My Heart Will Go On.
Yeah. So I've seen all 3 of these movies. Cats Don't Dance is bad.
Yeah.
I watched it this year. It's very bad.
Oh, why'd you watch it this year?
Don't remember. I think it just popped up on Tubi. And I was like, I've never seen that. And I don't like Hercules, although I know it's very popular.
I like Hercules, but I don't love it. It's not one of my favorites.
I think Anastasia would win this year. Don Bluth's big comeback.
Mm-hmm. And it's very well, I mean, it's a really good movie. I mean, everything about it works. The animation's beautiful, everything. I think, yeah, again, with Hercules, it's got the Disney advantage, but it's not, amongst people who grew up at that time and who saw it, as kids, I think it's really well loved. But like outside of that group, I don't think it's one of, Disney's more higher regarded films. And I do think Anastasia would have taken it this year.
Right. I do want to say, crapped on Cats Don't Dance, but I love The Emperor's New Groove, but I hate Chicken Little, and I did not like the Garfield movie, and that was why I watched Cats Don't Dance, because I watched the Garfield movie and I'm like, all right, Mark Dindal, I've only liked one movie you've ever made and I liked it a lot, but are you just garbage at this? And I watched Cats Don't Dance and I'm like, I just don't like this guy's movies. All the other movies that came out this year that you would think might get nominated were from other countries. So we had Princess Mononoke, which came out here the following year?
2 years, actually. It was 99 when that one came out, and it did actually get submitted to the Academy for the Best International Film. Japan submitted it as their submission for that, but it didn't qualify for any other Oscars, other than that, because it didn't get a proper release in the States until a couple years later.
Oh, interesting. And then they didn't resubmit it for animated in 99?
Well, there was no animated in 99.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
And then Perfect Blue also came out in 1997, but came out in the United States in 1999. And I'm looking at our 99 list and it's not on there. So they didn't submit it in 99 for anything.
Yeah, not on there.
So that's the tricky thing about this too, is like, what would they submit it for that would make it eligible for our list?
You can submit animated films for any category. I mean, if it's eligible for picture or screenplay or this, sounds or any of those other awards, that it could be. So that's, I mean, like some of these movies, the ones that I'm finding on the list, like Beavis and Butthead was submitted for any Oscar you wanted to nominate it for, really. It's just, that just didn't often happen outside of, as we've discussed, the song and score categories.
Yeah, and Perfect Blue doesn't have songs. I think we're identifying like a slight, not a major flaw, but a slight flaw in our methodology, because it's unlikely that an international movie would have submitted given the slim chances they'd have of getting nominated. Why spend the money? Anyway, Perfect Blue came out in 1997, really highly regarded movie. The End of Evangelion came out in 1997. Neon Genesis Evangelion as a movie. People are obsessed with this thing. I think it's gobbledygook. Come at me. You're going to be mad at me in the YouTube comments anyway. Just come at me anyway. Is that it? Oh, no, there's a Bill Plimpton movie, I Married a Strange Person, which I also own but haven't seen. I need to watch that.
And I thought this would be on the list as well, but it's because, as we discussed, past Bill Plimpton movies had been, but for whatever reason did not get submitted that year. Strange Person actually was on the list in 1998.
Oh, okay. So I jumped the gun a little there. There's also a Pippi Longstocking movie that came out in Germany. Actually, I do think it came out in the United States at the same time. What about Pippi Longstocking? Was that eligible?
No, I'm pretty sure that was straight to video.
It wasn't. It was theatrical. It looks like almost at the same time that it came out in Germany, and it was directed by the guy who made Feliday.
Oh, interesting. Not eligible, but now I'm definitely more curious about it now that I know that.
And then there's a sequel to The Swan Princess, but who cares? Let's move on to 1998.
These last 3 years that we're covering, 98, 99, 2000, those are all, we'll have a few more, at least, films to choose from for this list. So 1998, like I said, we've added I Married a Strange Person. There was also Ants, Bug's Life, Mulan, Prince of Egypt, Quest for Camelot, and the first Rugrats movie. There was actually a decent amount of Oscar attention on these movies. Bug's Life, Mulan, and Prince of Egypt were all nominated for Best Original Musical or Comedy Score. That was, again, the names we're familiar with. Randy Newman, Hans Zimmer, Jerry Goldsmith, who had also, I believe, worked on Anastasia. They all lost to Shakespeare in Love. Then the Best Original Song, Quest for Camelot, was actually nominated there for a song called The Prayer, sung by Celine Dion, and I want to say Andrea Bocelli. Prince of Egypt was also nominated and won in that category for the song When You Believe, sung by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey. We've got 7 to choose from. I think, again, I think this one's actually a pretty easy slate to pick out. I'm going, Bug's Life, Mulan, Prince of Egypt, I think is a pretty clear lineup there.
Yeah, just based on what you said about them getting other Oscar attention, I don't think there's any way to argue that. I am a big fan of Ants, but I'm a big Woody Allen fan.
I like it too, but yeah, I don't think it's as popular.
It's not. I mean, I can just see from your statistics, I can see that it gets blown out of the water. I think that this Letterboxd score is abysmal, but
I think that's way too low. I think Ants is pretty good.
Yeah, you get into 1 or 2 or 3 major controversies in your life, and it just ruins your Letterboxd scores. He didn't. I mean, Eric Darnell and Tim Johnson directed that movie. He didn't make it, but he is well known for it. Also, people aren't super thrilled with Sylvester Stallone anymore either. A big part of Ants. Quest for Camelot, I've never seen. Rugrats the movie is, I think like with a lot of Nickelodeon stuff, people our age are very fond of that stuff, but it wouldn't have gotten there. I agree with you, and I mean, between Mulan and the Prince of Egypt, that's tough. I'm just going to go with my gut and say the Prince of Egypt as the winner for me.
That's what I would have said too. I think it was like a bigger. I mean, Mulan was big when it came out, but that was a summer release. Prince of Egypt came out in the winter. It's got the big. It was a big DreamWorks thing. Spielberg's name was like attached to it, part of the DreamWorks SKG thing that they had at the time. It won the original song award. I think Prince of Egypt would have been the winner there.
Other movies that came out this year, the only one I'm seeing that probably should have gotten some attention but didn't, but is very small and not American, is Michel Ocelot's Kirikou and the Sorceress, which is a very good movie. Michel Ocelot is a very well-respected animator. I think if it were transported to 2025, people would be talking about this movie. They absolutely were not talking about it in 1998, and it didn't come out in the United States until 2000. There's that.
I saw Kirikou and the Sorceress. It was one of the Traverse City Film Festival movies that I saw. So it was quite a long time ago, but I do remember it being pretty good. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, one of the best Scooby-Doo movies. It was a 1998 release.
Straight to DVD.
Straight to DVD, definitely.
Cool. All right, let's talk about 99.
Oh, yeah, this will be a fun year. All right, 1999. We had some really interesting things happening here. I'll run through the list. First, we've got 7 movies on it. One of them is Doug's first movie. Yes, Doug, the Nickelodeon. I don't know any of this. I didn't have Nickelodeon in the 90s, so I know, right? Like, we didn't have a lot of cable growing up when I was a kid. We just always
Wow.
watched movies on VHS because my dad liked buying VHS tapes. But anyway,
Fair.
yes, we've got Doug's first movie. We have Brad Bird's The Iron Giant, Richard Rich's The King and I, Pokemon, the first movie, South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, Disney's Tarzan, and then Pixar's Toy Story 2. Also, again, directed by John Lasseter. For actual Oscar nominations that these movies got, again, the movies did okay. They each got one in the same category for original song. South Park landed Blame Canada in the category. Toy Story 2 had, again, Randy Newman's When She Loved Me, sung by Sarah McLachlan in the movie. Not a dry eye in the house on that one. And then the winner in the category was Tarzan for Phil Collins' You'll Be in My Heart, which, if you want me to say a bad word about Phil Collins, I'm not going to do it, because I love Phil Collins and everything he does, and I'm glad he won this award, and I love that song.
All right, well, let's talk about the nominations. Let's see. You've got The Iron Giant, Tarzan, and Toy Story 2 as your 3 nominees. That's pretty unimpeachable, except South Park.
South Park did get the song nomination,
yeah. South Park was like a runaway success at the time.
But I can still see the Academy in a larger sense than the song. The song category has been known to nominate some out of left field things. Like it's had, it nominated and gave an award to Eminem for 8 Mile for the Lose Yourself song. It was the song from Shaft got nominated for original song, but I didn't see Shaft, like breaking out into any other categories, or like 8 Mile breaking out into any other categories. So sometimes the song category can be a little more willing to, to go for something like a South Park. And that's the only reason I would say, and again, because Iron Giant, Tarzan, and Toy Story 2 are all, again, wildly popular and really good. I just think that would fit more to the Academy sensibilities. But again, South Park would be right there. The fact that we're even having this conversation about, man, would South Park got nominated for an Oscar? Like, that's kind of funny that we're even having that conversation.
Okay, The Iron Giant bombed at the box office, and South Park was like a giant hit. There's that to think about too. And now,
it's also Brad Bird, who they love.
Who they love now. That was his first movie.
That's true, yeah.
I mean, he was popular because of The Simpsons, but Iron Giant's his first film, so they didn't love him yet.
It's just so good. I love Tarzan and I love Toy Story 2, but I'd put Iron Giant above both of them.
My argument is actually not to get rid of Iron Giant. In my heart, my argument is to get rid of Tarzan. I don't think it's a good movie.
I like Tarzan.
I think it is very boring. I think South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is excellent. South Park also, 26 years later, is ascendant again.
Yes.
So for a lot of the same reasons, and using the same characters that they used in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, like the Satan character.
Who haven't grown at all.
Well, I don't even mean the kids. I mean, like, the idea of, they used to, in Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, it's Saddam and Satan, and now it's Donald Trump and Satan. To me, it's South Park going in over Tarzan, even though you could make a great and easy case that Tarzan wins this category just by being Disney. I actually think Toy Story 2 becomes the first sequel to win in our imaginary award here.
Yeah, I think it would be between Tarzan and Toy Story. And I should say about South Park too, I only saw it probably like when it came out, maybe a time or two. And at the time, it was just too much South Park for me. Like I liked my South Park in like 22-minute chunks. And at the time, it was just too much for me. And I remember not particularly caring for it. But I've been meaning to revisit it for, I don't know, forever now. And I haven't done it yet. But gosh, yeah, it's tough. That's 4 strong choices. They said Iron Giant's my favorite. But yeah, Toy Story 2 probably would have won.
I think so. And it has since become one of the most positively reviewed movies of all time. For a while, like for a long while, it had 100% Rotten Tomatoes, which nothing has ever when it's reviewed by that many people. But by the way, I remember in college, you just didn't like Trey Parker and Matt Stone that much at the time. You were kind of anti. Yeah. So I think now is the time to revisit South Park.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely softened on them quite a bit. It's like a lot of shows with me. Like, there's so much of it that like some of it's awful and like unwatchable. But when they hit so hard and it's so funny.
Totally.
So yeah, I would definitely be open to watching that movie again. In fact, my kid just started watching South Park recently, so maybe a little bit might show her the movie.
I like that. She's the same age I was when I watched South Park for the first, but that's how old I was.
It's funny. I think about these things and like, ooh, should my kid be watching South Park? Because it was cool. Like, she asked me like, hey, can I start watching South Park? And I thought about it like, fuck yeah, I was watching stuff like that, like even probably before she was. So yeah, it's just different when it's your kid, Right.
I mean, I remember my parents, I was 13 when South Park came out, and my parents were mad. I could hear them screaming at me to turn it off, but I didn't turn it off.
26 years later, we're still not turning it off.
Yeah. Let's talk 2000.
2000, yeah. Let's finish.
Wait. We didn't see if there's anything from 1999.
Oh yeah, 90. Yeah, we gotta check. My Neighbors, the Yamadas.
I don't like that movie. It's the only Isao Takahata movie I don't like. I do think it is an Oscar. And it's weird. Like, I think it would be tough for American kids to sit through. It's an anthology film about a family, but like there's no story throughout the whole thing. Jinro, the Wolf Brigade, that is a weird movie that I don't like, but a lot of people do really like it. Pokemon 2000 probably didn't come out.
That actually makes the list next for 2000. That came out. That and Fantasia 2000 both actually came out in 2000.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, Bartok was straight to video. We talked about Bartok in our Anastasia episode.
I kind of like Bartok. I
haven't seen it, but I have seen, I don't know why I don't have this marked, but I have seen Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. Definitely a straight to DVD, but you know what? It's fun. I like it.
And your favorite movie that you mentioned, An American Tale, The Mystery of the Night Monster, which the Night Monster, classic Fievel story.
Of course, yeah, everyone remembers the Night Monster.
Let's talk about the year 2000.
We had 9 movies to choose from. This is our biggest slate of movies to choose from so far. Peter Lord and Nick Park's Chicken Run. We have Disney's kind of experiment, I would say, Dinosaur. Disney's also The Emperor's New Groove, which we just mentioned. Fantasia 2000, Pokemon the Movie 2000, DreamWorks' The Road to El Dorado, Rugrats sequel, The Rugrats in Paris, the movie, another Disney film, the Tigger movie, and Don Bluth and Gary Goldman showing up one last time with Titan AE, which I believe you just watched recently.
I did, yeah. I watched it for our 90s episode so I could talk about Don Bluth more.
The only Oscar nomination scored by any of these movies was The Emperor's New Groove, Sting, who I love. I love Sting. He got a nomination for the song My Funny Friend and Me. However, he lost to Wonder Boys, the song Things Have Changed by the one and only Bob Dylan. So, I really like Emperor's New Groove and I like Sting, but I have no argument with that loss.
Fair enough. I'm trying to find faults in your nominations, and I'm not finding it.
I think these 3 are pretty solid. I would have chosen, I think the 3 that would have made it, and I think Chicken Run and Emperor's New Groove are kind of definite, solid 1 and 2. And then the third one, I had Road to El Dorado. Again, it had kind of, DreamWorks behind it. It had Elton John doing the songs. You've got Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh doing the voices. So I think that kind of would carry it over. I mean, Pokemon's not happening. Fantasia 2000, I don't see happening either. Dinosaur, nobody remembers. Rugrats, I can't see getting in. Titan AE was not well liked. Tigger movie, maybe, but I think Road to El Dorado would have had it over that.
The only thing I'm thinking is, and this is personal, but I think Rhapsody in Blue, the segment from Fantasia 2000, is the best Fantasia segment, period. I think it was also the only one that sort of earned Fantasia 2000 existing. It was like that alone makes it worthwhile that they made that movie, in the legacy of Fantasia. Like if it was a short film, I would be like, that's the short and that's winning this year. Mm-hmm. They didn't submit it that way, obviously, because it didn't win Best Animated Short Film. So yeah, even though I don't love Road to El Dorado, I can't really. And also, I'm a little bit more down on Chicken Run. Might be the Mel Gibson factor, but I can't argue it because of the way the Academy loves Aardman and it's like most people like it more than I do, and I'll cop to that.
Yeah, so I mean, Present Company included. I like Chicken Run quite a bit.
Right. So I think this is right, and I think Emperor's New Groove wins. It's just so fun.
I think Emperor's New Groove takes it too. Chicken Run, they had already awarded Wallace and Gromit movies before, and then in the shorts category. So I definitely think the Academy liked them. So Chicken Run I could maybe see, but I think Emperor's New Groove is just too strong, too popular, too well liked, and I think that would have been the winner.
And you have to give Mark Dindal his flowers for making one good movie.
That's right. After many attempts, he finally did it.
2000 movies, but probably not missing much.
Probably not missing too much. I mean, a couple of sequels. Extremely Goofy movie, I thought came out in theaters too, but for some reason that was not. No, physical, that must have been straight to video. Extremely Goofy movie. That wasn't on the list. Little Mermaid 2, of course, was that year also.
DreamWorks did Joseph that year, but it was straight to video.
Yeah, the Joseph Technicolor, Dreamcoat, whatever. Yeah, that was definitely straight to video.
Yeah. And bad.
Yeah, not good.
Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust came out that year, which was very good, but didn't come out in the States in 2000. And then Ocelot had another movie, Princes and Princesses, which I like a lot. So Michelle Ocelot popping up again.
There was Heavy Metal, came out through Heavy Metal 2000.
Did that come out in theaters?
Letterboxd says, theatrical July 10th, 2000 in the States.
We talked about this in our 80s episode. I've never seen Heavy Metal. I've never seen Heavy Metal 2000. And as Jeff Richardson told us, it's a movie by pervs for pervs. So maybe I'll see it one day. Who knows?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that about covers it for 2000. I don't see much else on there that we didn't mention.
Great. Well, we've been talking for an hour, so I think that's enough Oscar talk from us. I'm glad we did this. It was a lot of fun. We'll be back next week with the animated films of the aughts.